ചടുലം സുരതര നിപുണം കർമ്മം. പാടാമീ നാടിൻ കാവൽ സംഗീതം, നേടാം നന്മതൻ സ്നേഹം സന്തോഷം, തേടാമെന്നെന്നും ശാന്തിതൻ സന്ദേശം, ചേരാം നേരിന്റെ ലോകം കണ്ടെത്താം, സത്യം പാലിക്കാൻ നിത്യം രക്ഷിക്കാൻ, നിൽക്കുമ്പോൾ മൃദുഭാവം ദൃഢകൃത്യം. ഇത് സേന, നമ്മുടെ സേന. കഠിനം ചലനം മൃദുരം പ്രിയവചനം.
ഞങ്ങൾക്കും നിങ്ങളാശ്രയം എന്നെന്നും നൽകും സാന്ത്വനം, വഴികാട്ടുവാൻ ജനമൈത്രിയായി
കയ്യെത്തും ദൂരത്തെ സേന. എന്നെഞ്ചിൻ കാവൽ സേന. ശാന്തിരതം ഭയഭയരഹിതം വീരം മുഴകൃത്യം ചടുലം സ്ഫുടതര നിപുണം കർമ്മം. അതിശക്താനിപുണം സ്വയം നിജഹൃദയം കഠിനം ചലനം മൃദുരം പ്രിയവചനം. ശാന്തിരതം ഭയഭയരഹിതം വീരം മുഴകൃത്യം ചടുലം സ്ഫുടതര നിപുണം കർമ്മം. നമ്മുടെ സേന.
Hello and welcome to all joining us here today. I'm Meera Jaydevan, a member of the organizing team here at Hackbee 2021. The Kerala Police Surveillance brings forth the 5th edition of Hackathon Hackbee 2021 with the theme on demystifying the dark web. Like last year's, a series of tech talks is also organized by us, which would be beneficial for the tech people as well as others. Before we begin, let's take this opportunity to thank our pillars of support. We have Beagle Security as our technology partner, Cloud4C as our cloud partner, Mashup Stack as our knowledge partner, Ecoloop 360 as our sustainability partner, and Federal Bank and ICICI as our banking partners. Our community partners include ICMEC, OWASP, VCS India Affiliate, ASRG, Isanka Trivandrum Chapter, Nalcon, GTech ATFG, and AWS User Group Kochi. We would also like to thank our partners, BeSafe, CloudSec, and vConsole. Thank you all for the support shown in organizing Hackbee. It's an honor to have the community partnership with VC's community and work for a common cause. We have Sabna Sainudeen, President, Preeti Bhisikar, Treasurer, and Harsha Deepa, Events Coordinator of VC's India here with us today. Sabna is the president of Women in Cybersecurity India, and through leading this community, she thrives to bridge the gender gap that exists in cybersecurity with a mission to recruit, retain, and promote women in cybersecurity in India. Sabna Sainudeen is a senior cybersecurity leader with exceptional
Hello, everyone. Are you all able to hear me? Okay, thank you, Meera. Thanks for that nice introduction. I think everyone is doing well and safe in this COVID situation. And today is it's an honor for us to be in this session to conduct a session for Hackpy, and it's our honor to have a partnership with Kerala Cyberdome team and support them with the Hackpy initiative. And as a community, we always believe that alone we can do a little, together we can achieve a lot of things. So I firmly believe that this partnership with Kerala Cyberdome, we will be able to work together to build a more safer cyberspace. And it's really great to see that Kerala Cyber Police is doing a great initiative, proactively working to address the latest cyber crimes and cyber attacks and help the society to protect from these cyber criminals. And I would like to take this opportunity to appreciate each one of the team members of Kerala Cyberdome to take these initiatives and who is tremendously working for the Hackpy initiative. Here I am. I would like to talk a bit more about our community. I believe for most of you, Visis India is a new name that you will be hearing today. So I would like to take some moment to help you understand what exactly is Visis India community. So before that, let's take a break. I would like to give a kind of puzzle for everyone, just a food for thought. And this is a question that I'm going to give you. If you are able to send the answer through comments, just please feel free to put that answer in the comment. Otherwise, I'll give 1 minute for you to think about it, and definitely I will tell the answer. So this is a puzzle. So there is a father and a son who was on their way to see their mother. And in between, on the way, they suddenly, unfortunately, met with an accident. And the father died on the spot. The son was in critical situation and he has been taken to the emergency hospital. So the emergency doctors done the examination and he has been taken to emergency operation. And the lead doctor came and see the boy, and the doctor yelled, "Oh God, this is my son." So surprise, right? So who is this doctor? If you know the answer, please put it in the comments. Otherwise, I'll just give 1 minute to think. Not 1 minute, 30 seconds. So I'm not seeing any answer in the comment. So I believe most of you majority might have thought the doctor can be the grandfather, or it can be a stepfather, right? So that is I believe most of you might have thought like that. So the doctor was actually the mother, the wife of that person who died in the car accident, and it's a mother of that boy. So this is the unconscious bias that we talk about, which is still exists in the society even today. So we have this unconscious bias in almost every field of the industry, no matter if it is in the cybersecurity field, no matter in the engineering field, or no matter in the medical field, everywhere. There is a gender disparity and there is a gender inequality still persists, and we have to go a long way to bid that gap. And Visis India mission is the same. What we are doing is we are a non-profit global community with a mission and a vision to bid this gender gap in the cybersecurity industry. So, a bit more about Visis India. Visis India is actually a global community. It's based out of US, and it has been founded back in 2012 by Dr. Ambreen Siraj of Tennis Tech University through a NSF grant. And since then, Visit India is being tremendously known for its activities to promote and support women in cybersecurity. And in 2018, Visit has started growing internationally. Visit has a lot of affiliates. We call it as the chapters. We call it as affiliates. Lot of affiliates within USA, but in 2018 we started crossing the borders, and that's where we are. Visit India affiliate is one of the first international affiliates of Visit Global, and we started our journey last year September, and now we are growing tremendously. We are having more than 400 members onboarded, very passionate women enthusiasts who want to build their career in cybersecurity. So what we do in Visit India, right? We provide the right platform for all the enthusiastic women and the girls, university students, no matter it's a working movement, the leaders of cybersecurity, or the university students. We give them a platform to develop themselves by giving a training, mentorship, webinars, and job opportunities. So, what we mean by job opportunities is we do have a lot of partnership with all the organizations. So, if you name it, we have a partnership with them. So, if you get a chance, you please visit Visit's website. We are in partnership with big firms like Microsoft, SAP, Nike, Cisco, and the list goes on. So we do provide opportunities for our members to get the job opportunities within our strategic partner companies. And we also provide a lot of other programs to help them and develop them. Right. So, with this, I would like to introduce our treasurer, Preeti Bhisikar, who will be talking a bit more about our initiatives into 2021. I would like to invite Preeti.
Thank you, Sabna, and a very good evening to everyone for making your time and coming joining this wonderful initiative by HackP, the Kerala Police Cyberdome, to demystify the dark web. So firstly, Sabna has wonderfully shared how Vices India affiliate is committed in advancing women in cybersecurity. And the most important thing is we need to understand as all the biases, that subconscious biases that Sabna highlighted, that still exist in our world here. How do we do that? So there is a huge amount of responsibility as Vices India affiliate community that we have. But at the same time, we need to see how we are harnessing the power of existing skills that exist in the market, in the industry, and to make join hands and collaborate with such honorable community partnership that we have today with HackP in terms of making the cyberspace, which is now sort of become an integral part of our day-to-day life, much safer space. So with this, let me dive deeper into what are the key initiatives Vices India has taken since we have established this affiliate in India. So we started this year in 2021 with a very minor community in India, especially the women veterans. So we had launched our Veterans Assistance Program. So me personally, being a veteran from Indian Army, I have special affiliate towards that. So this is a special program where we the objective is to promote the Indian women veterans. So we have defined, these veterans as women who are coming from any of the defense services, Indian Army, Indian Air Force, Indian Navy, as well as from the national police forces. So this is a much more relevant forum, Kerala Police Cyberdome. So I urge all the women police here to come see how Vice's initiative of Veterans Assistance Program can help them assist in promoting and providing the platform, in assisting them leverage their skills that they bring from their background, how they can apply in this new space called cyber space, the new dimension that is now integral in our day-to-day life. So with this, we have another initiative that is our innovation series. And the objective of this initiative is to promote innovation in the cyberspace and see how we can think differently in terms of making this space more safe and more secure. So we recently had a session hosted as part of this series, wherein a renowned speaker from the industry was invited to talk about how patenting can be looked into our day-to-day life, whatever we do in our areas. So I think this is more relevant because Hackpeace demystifying dark web hackathon, they are trying to figure out how we can leverage technology and build solution for better policing. So this is the more relevant initiative. I feel that Vice's community members can join hands with Hackpea as well and support them in identifying such technology solution to make world a better, safe and a secure place. So with this, I would like to thank Hackpea, Kerala Police, and the honor they gave us to be our community partners, and our community members are coming here to talk about very interesting topic. So with this, I will invite our event coordinator, Harsha Deepa, to take forward this session and deep dive into his topic. Over to you, Harsha.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Moving forward to the session with our allied speakers from VSys India. The invention of internet and remote connectivity broke the unfettered trust of perimeter security to enterprises that was analogous to a protected castle. Traditionally, they choose to implement firewalls and other security tools to create a perimeter, effectively dividing the network zones into trusted inside the perimeter and untrusted present outside the perimeter. Soon, this perimeter of trust was exploited by hackers, including secure zones like VPN and DMZ. The dark side hacking group first emerged as a significant cybersecurity threat in August 2020. While data breaches that compromise hundreds and thousands or millions of records tend to grab the most headlines, estimated global damage by ransomware goes beyond $20 billion in the year 2020. To minimize the impact of ransomware attack on any business, prevention strategies need to be in place now. Cloud and remote work already removed the traditional security boundaries with an increase in search lurking attacks. However, drastic digitalization with the pandemic outbreak has made it most urgent project. Given the kind of assault ransomware makes on the business isn't new, it begs the question why organizations aren't defending themselves with what has become recognized as information technology's best practice for securing networks, the zero trust model. The session with Sophia Priyadarshini and Neetee Pawa dives into zero trust security principles and model that most enterprises need to succeed in cyber and ransomware defense for the year 2021. Now about our speakers for the session, Ransomware Defense Zero Trust Security Model. Neetee Pawa is certified cybersecurity leader with 2 decades of extensive experience in wireframing, strategizing and partnering information security posture for multinational clients and leading cross-functional teams. Neetee serves as managing consultant at IBM Security Services Gurgaon for 6 years. She is leading security outreach program for IBM Security Vice India chapter, the Women in Security Excellence. She owns a cybersecurity awareness YouTube channel, Cyberopedia, and passionate about spreading security awareness. She is also a lead with organization InfoSec Kids. She has worked with organizations like HCL, CSC, Wipro Consulting, Polaris Software Labs, and helped clients across various geographies and industry verticals. Most of her experience revolves around solving complex cybersecurity problems and providing them a viable strategy in financial services, healthcare, and IT sectors. Sophia has worked extensively in cybersecurity domain, assisting customers improve their cybersecurity posture by assisting them implement zero trust architecture projects and launch offensive security programs like bug bounty programs. She is currently working with InstaSafe as Customer Success Growth Associate Manager. Sophia is also the chief community builder of Women in Cyber Community, a community which fosters awareness starting from teenagers and above and working towards building gender equality in the world of cybersecurity. Over to you, Neetee, to begin the session.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Harsha. A wonderful introduction and elaborate one. I'm so delighted to be here, and I would first like to thank Hack HP and Voices India for giving me this opportunity. So, we have quite a packed agenda today, and we are going to talk about one of the very relevant topic, which is ransomware in depth. We'll start with the ransomware as to what it is. We'll talk about how it is evolving, some of the recent statistics, what is its current trend, and how exactly it works via an anatomy diagram. We'll talk about it, how to survive a ransomware attack, as well as some of the defense mechanism through zero trust concepts. And then I'll actually hand it over to our expert, Sophia, who will take you through the zero trust, at length and in details. So, did you ever wake up your computer screen with such a message? Something like which is showing a lock. You're almost logged not to be able to log into your computer screen, be it your personal computer or your organization's computer. Probably you're just being able to operate on some of the buttons available on the message and to do some trial with few actions which are available, and not being able to get at all into your system. Or it could be that you are able to get into the system, but you're not being able to find your files, and probably there's some junk data which you are not being able to understand. So possibly you've encountered a ransomware attack. So what does this mean? And what next? So it means that you have encountered this malware which has encrypted the data on your computer system, be it your laptop or your system at office or at your organization. And now you've been asked to pay some ransom to the cyber attackers. And when I say the cyber attacker, it is not one person; it is the entire racket involved, right? And you are supposed to pay the payment, and there is a clock ticking on the screen, and which says that you have to pay the payment and do the ransom payment within so and so time, which is not a long time, of course, maybe 2 to 3 days or something. And if not, with a threat message saying that you probably pay the ransom within so and so time, and if you don't do that, your ransom amount will double, or a threatening message like that. And of course, a lot of guides and messaging around as to how you can pay the ransom, how you can restore your system, how can you unlock your system. So how to pay is mostly would be around, would be paying through the Bitcoins, which is like a digital cryptocurrency. And that's the only payment mode that these attackers accept, right? Because it works like a credit card. And you do not have to associate an identity with a Bitcoin. So you don't,
Excuse
it is
me,
not
Neetee,
possible.
ma'am. Sorry
Yeah.
for interrupting, but your PPT is not visible. Please, can you do it in the presentation mode?
Oh, it's already in the presentation mode. Shall I do it again?
Yeah, please
Let
can
me
you do it
try
again? It's
doing
not
it once.
visible.
Okay, let me do it again. Okay. Is it visible now?
Not yet.
Strange. Is it the
Now
same,
can you
Pirata?
reshare?
Okay.
Just share the screen,
Yeah, I've
not
actually
the
shared
window.
it. Let me share this. I was actually sharing just the application. Is it visible now?
No.
Okay, let me share the entire screen then. No point.
Ma'am, you can put the slideshow in the slide
Is
presentation
it
mode
visible
and
now?
then share the whole screen.
Yeah, that's what I did now. Is it visible now?
Yeah, ma'am, it is visible now.
Awesome. All
You
right.
can just
Thanks,
hide the
Harsha, for
pop-up.
pointing that out. Yeah. Is it visible properly now?
Yeah, it is visible.
Perfect. All right. Thank you,
Thank
Harsha.
you.
All
Thank you.
right. All right. So I was saying you have probably encountered a ransomware attack, and the bitcoins are the only possible way to pay the ransom amount, because these are a digital cryptocurrency wherein the payment comes in a digital format, and the identity of the recipient is not to be associated with it, and it's easy to receive, right? So that's how it happens. So what next? Should we pay the payment? Should we pay? Should we not pay? That's the dilemma we have as an organization, right? So let's say you are one of those smart organizations who have built your strong BCP, and you have your backups very up to date, and you are in a position to rebuild your system, or you are one of those who has all the backups of your data. But still, if you are one of the organizations who have enough regulatory implications, if you're storing your customers data, and the attackers have now got the access to that data, right? So they're always ready to threaten you and do all kinds of mal activities to threaten you, and go at bend down at any level to get the money, right? So uh, they can threaten you that, okay, you don't need your system, and you are quite capable to rebuild your systems from your backups, but then I have the access to your data. So here you go, all your records I'm going to expose to the world, and I'm going to sell them in the dark web. And you know what? These people are looking for just money. And each single record in your environment, if it is sensitive personal information, like your social security number, something like your Aadhaar card, or any other security number, starts from $1 each record. And it can go down to $1,000 each record if it is a medical health record, right? Because health record in turn would have all the necessary information like your credit card, your health information, which is quite costly in dark web. So think of the impact and the reputational threat that an organization can have due to this ransomware attack. And even the biggest organizations end up paying as much as these attackers ask for, and that's how ransomware is growing. And with the onset of the pandemic, this threat has already taken a toll, and it's like skyrocketing, right? So if you really see some of these statistics from from past. This has been plotted from 2015. That's where basically when actually this came into trend mostly in advanced form. And if you see the trend is going up like anything. And with the outbreak of pandemic, of course, these attackers are taking advantage and encashing and capitalizing the money like anything. And they've exploded the organizations with the with these kind of attacks. Why? Because we are in a crisis situation. We have to work remotely, right? You are not in your organization. You are probably on the mercy of the security, which is limited to your end user desktop, which is your laptop. Could be just the antivirus, or maybe some more security controls that your organization may have or may not have in place. And they know that there are vulnerabilities in the environment. So yes, the ransomware attack has multiplied like anything, and it has become 57 times if you really start comparing it from 2015 till and if you see the statistics coming up in 2021, it's expected to touch $20 billion, right, as a global cost, which is huge money. And if you see the IBM Exposed Red Threat Intelligence Report in 2021, ransomware has been one of the top attack types, which accounted for 40% of the cyber attacks. And the number is just growing like anything. And we are also expecting that every 11 seconds there will be a cyber attack or a ransomware attack per se in an organization. And of course, when we're talking about the statistics, this is about the reported incidents in many organizations, which are like mid-level organization and smaller organizations, and even bigger organizations who have a threat to get impacted by their the reputational impact. They probably may not report the incident at all. And these costs, they're not just about paying the ransom. The costs are also for rebuilding your systems, right? So the extra effort that you'll have to spend on rebuilding your systems, the cost that you might have to pay in your downtime, right? The revenue loss, the reputational loss, the business loss. So all that, it actually multiplies in such incidents. So the key target for these ransomware attackers, I think they're growing like anything. And the key target sector for these gangs with the emerge of COVID-19 in 2020 has been mainly to the healthcare sector, as well as education sector, which is undergoing a digital transformation like anything, and of course, government organizations. So we've seen that COVID-19 crisis in 2020, we observed that there are around 600 hospitals across the globe which were impacted by 92 ransomware attacks. Again, this is just based on the reported numbers, right? So it's actually little impractical or impossible to cover even top 10 or 5 incidents. So I just captured few relevant incidents which are the talk of the town right now. Talking about India, India has taken a lot from COVID-19, and ransomware has been one of the impacts which we need to count on. So 16th October 2020, India's food major, Haldiram's, it suffered a ransomware attack, and a huge amount of data and ransom was asked. 6th May 2021, the Colonial Pipeline, who doesn't know about this incident? It was like a huge havoc that happened in US East Coast, wherein the fuel went offline. The fuel pipeline in the US East Coast went offline and was down for entire 6 days. And eventually it took more than the longer time to be normal and resume to its normal operations by even longer. And there was a huge havoc. There were around 20 states that got impacted, and they ended up paying around 75 bitcoins, means 144, $4.4 billion. No, not 144, $4.4 billion to the ransom group, which was supposedly dark side. This is one of the biggest groups from Russia, and they also attacked another organization and during the same time, which was Brentag, which was equally big organization, and equal amounts of data was hacked, and equivalent amount of dollars, $1 million were charged or paid to them. Now, we know that this is growing like anything. But then there have been variants in the ransomware since the beginning when it actually was reported for the first time. And it is growing like anything. Day by day, there are advancements, and the kind of sophistication these hackers are bringing in, and the kind of technology advancements they are bringing in is, countable. And if you really see, there are around 3,000 types of ransomware which have been reported as on 2020, and they are emerging many more, right? You count on it. So I've just captured few of the famous ones here. And it actually started in 1989. That was the first time when a ransomware was reported by a biologist who actually reported this through a floppy disk and shared ransomware kind of a malware which impacted the victim's machine, and that's how actually the first time this kind of an activity was done. Eventually, a police Trojan came into 2012, wherein the there was a ransomware which supposedly withdrew a warning message saying that this is from a law enforcement and their computer system has been performing some malfunctions and some illegal activity, so you need to pay the fine, and that's how the money was recovered. Crypto locker actually was a trend setter from 2013, wherein usually that is what is prevalent now as well, wherein the attackers will encrypt your data and then will ask you the ransom to be able to give you the decryption key. And that's what happened in 2017 with a very, I think that is the one of the biggest cyber attacks the world has seen, wherein around 3 lakh systems were impacted, around 250 countries were impacted, and huge amount of ransom was recovered. And then it was not limited to the business impacts. Now we've also seen an incident in 2020 where a woman's death was reported in a German hospital when the hospital operations were halted because of a ransomware attack, and they could not help her. So the point is that we are almost in a war. It's like COVID-19 this is another coronavirus, and you are in the war already. So it's like you will face it, right? It's only that how prepared you are and how much you get touched, right? So that's how we need to take it at that level of seriousness now. So let's talk about, there is a little delay here. Yeah. So let's talk about the recent ransomware we have seen in cloud. So who doesn't know? Businesses have been getting advantage through the trend and through the technology updates and the benefits of cloud, and so is these ransomware groups and gangs have been encashing and doing service, a very dangerous business. Yes, I need to call it a business, although it is a totally illegal crime, criminal activity, but yes, that's how the model is, wherein the developer or the RAS author, as we call it, will develop the code for the ransomware or the malware, and keep updating it with more advanced codes and strategies, and keep it up to date, and then and deputes the RAS operator, which is the gang of people who actually target the victims and the organizations. And finally, when the ransom is paid, they share the profit. Yes, that's a profit for them. And that's how they are growing tremendously like anything. and their capabilities are increasing and multiplying like anything, because the RAS operator who is actually involved at the back end in the racket or in the ransomware attack uh, does not need any additional skills, right? Does not need any special skills like a RAS author or a developer skills, and they are just being able to perform these activities at a very large scale. And we've seen that there are around 45 ransomware as a service kind of gangs which are already available, which are known in the globe, in the world. So now let's take a look at how actually the ransomware attack happens, the anatomy. So I just borrowed these diagrams from internet, wherein the attacker just sets the plot, and through it actually starts with a phishing email or an email which the end user who receives the email has to click on, right? So you probably end up clicking a wrong email and a wrong link, and that's where the story starts. So this particular stage is called as the campaign phase. And as soon as the user clicks on it, the malware unpacks it and starts scanning and starts executing the code, so that this particular malware can connect with the command and control center servers with the attacker's environment, right? So that's how it actually starts, and it will start scanning, and this is called as the infection phase, wherein actually the infection has started taking, but the encryption is yet to happen. Then comes the communication phase, wherein as soon as the communication between the attacker's command center and the target or victim's environment established through special tools like Tor, which are not traceable, and they're like browsers, not exceptional browser, which are used for hacking and other things. And that's where the public key is downloaded. So in any encryption mechanism, you need a public key and a private key. So you are now starting your infection phase, and this is specially called as the staging phase. So now you're staged and ready to start your scam, and your plot is ready. As soon as the malware starts scanning, that okay, now it will evaluate what all systems do we have access to within the environment, right? So whatever access we have, let's say we might be able to get or invade an admin access or the data within the network. It starts scanning the other networks within the environment, and that's how it will start targeting those machines. So the local machine where the attack started gets encrypted immediately, and then eventually it starts scanning the entire network, and then the communication happens. As soon as the entire encryption is complete, the files are logged, encrypted, and the ransomware screen, something like which I had shown, comes up, right? And that's where is the final ransom day or a payday, we call it. And that's where the user communication starts, again through the same kind of interface, wherein you don't have to really talk over phone or the usual way crime activities used to happen. It all happens through the computer screen, and you are supposed to pay the ransom through the Bitcoin. The private key is delivered, and you are able to restore your data. Of course, if the criminals need to or intend to share the private key, because they're mostly the money making machines, and they just are intent. You pay the payment, and they'll probably pay you back. But of course, you can't guarantee that, and now you are on your own, which means that you have to now start using the private key and start decrypting it. The private key may work, the private key may not work. Who guarantees, right? And so you may have to eventually build your systems on your own, deploy any other third-party services, or your own on your own organization and skills and people to rebuild your systems. So before I move to the next thing, I really want to encourage you to think that if you see there are different stages to this ransomware attack, and we need to fix these different stages. And if we really strategically think like the saviors or the security experts, we need to understand that we need to take some preventive as well as reactive controls and activities and actions, so that or fixes to these problems in such a way that at each stage we are able to put some controls, preventive as well as reactive, so that we are able to survive such an attack. Of course, these controls do not guarantee again that you will be able to, that the ransomware won't happen. But yes, we need to apply some common sense survival activities we need to do. So let's say if you have already encountered an attack, now is the time that you need to really look upon your disaster recovery plan, as well as your business continuity services, that how mature we are from that standpoint. And we need to start taking steps to isolate and be very vigilant on it. So you isolate your systems which are already infected in a very coordinated manner, shut down the infected systems, isolate the systems which are probably carrying lesser ransomware infections, block the network traffic, block all the connections like Bluetooth, Wi-Fi and all, and then triage the impacted systems with a specific key set in mind that yes, we need to prioritize our critical systems and then restore them with the shortest time, and keep the systems and devices which are not impacted or which are less critical as a second priority. So all this has to be planned very well, and of course there has to be a crisis management team which has to connect with the media. And talking about the disaster recovery plan and business continuity, we need to make sure that your cyber insurance covers the ransomware, and to a good level, right? And gone are those times when we used to expect scenarios on fire and those things. So I think we now have to scale up our business continuity plans to include scenarios for these kind of cyber attacks, and ransomware is on the top, as we know. Now, now we were talking about some of the survival activities which happen after the disaster has happened or the ransomware attack has happened, and how to restore from it. But we don't have to wait for it, right? As I said, we are already on the war, and we will be impacted. It is it is increasing and growing like anything, and we just need to be prepared. So we need to have some solid, defense mechanism in place. So gone are those days when we used to say that, okay, if we need to focus on some security awareness programs wherein it has been recommended and it's still recommended that we should invest some money, the organizations have to invest some money on increasing the security awareness or the phishing awareness for the organizations, and have to train their employees through the mock campaigns and mature activities. However, we also need to have serious defense mechanism in terms of infrastructure controls, and that's where comes the zero trust as one of the proven answers to ransomware attack. Of course, it is not foolproof, it does not guarantee, because most of the controls the organizations may have in place, but then as a whole, a holistic zero trust concept or a methodology or a mentality has to be adopted by the organizations now, and which means now. And we need to actually correlate. I'll touch upon these topics from the mechanism the ransomware works. So if we start listing, I'll go flip to the other diagram which I was referring. So first one in the concepts is secure access to resources, regardless of the location. So as I said, now we are working in a remote environment. We need to ensure that the access to these resources is provided in a secure manner. We need to have right we need to ensure that the attacker does not get into this environment at all. We need to ensure that the access itself, there are enough access control mechanisms so that the entry itself is not allowed, and we are able to track or trap the attacker at the initial level only. So there are controls like multi-factor authorization, as well as their strong VPN mechanism. Remote access has to be strengthened. Then comes the access control on need to know basis and strictly enforced. Now, we've already said, okay, we need to ensure that the resources and the access control has to be secured, but then it has to be on the need to know basis. If you really see at the stage 2, when the infection starts, it first starts scanning the systems for what level of accesses we have. So if we are able to have some controls at this level, when we are able to control the access. So let's say the host machine did not have the access on the target machines or the data, there itself, the control will be able to fail the ransomware attempt, right? And you will be halted till that level because you don't have access to the data, so you'll not be able to encrypt any data. And that's one way to fail the ransomware attack. Coming to verify and never trust. So zero trust says that you also have to assume that you are always and all the times under an attack. So every time you give access to any other resource or an asset, it has to be periodically and verified, and we are never going to trust. So it's not that it's gone are those times when we know, okay, if a user or an access has been provisioned at the perimeter of the network, and once it comes inside the network, you can probably treat that particular connection as a trusted one, or the user as a trusted one. Gone are those days. We need to periodically verify. So let's say even if the host is able to navigate few systems, we need to ensure that we have the re-verifying mechanisms at every stage, and that's what probably is missing in most of the organizations. And that is one way to again fail another attempt from the attacker. Inspection, logging, monitoring, and a lot of visibility through a mature security operations center within the organization. Usually it is there, but we have seen that if we have a mature mechanism, we are able to, we can actually track that, or maybe one of the alerts at any of this level, we will be able to control, and we will be able to block the further connection from coming from this particular target, where the command center and control center from the target machines are targeting our host machines. So yes, there have been very many instances, like many hospitals have reported, wherein at least some systems were impacted, but it was reported and it was traced, and because of the good controls and logging mechanism in place, and that's how at least few systems were impacted, but then eventually they were able to control and manage the overall attack. Now, the last one is network has to be designed from inside out. Now, that's one of the very critical ones when I talk about network design or the architecture. The topology of the network helps control a lot of things, right? So let's say when the infection starts here and it gets access to some of the machines in the same network, if there is enough zoning within the network, the access to the other zones or the network buckets, you will not be able to, the attacker may not be able to navigate to some of your critical servers, right? So maybe there has to be a zoning, and a small number of networks have to be created within the bigger organization network. Maybe you keep your crown jewels in a separate network. You dedicate a different layered mechanism within the network, so that you have to bypass different layers to go to a next level of network zoning. So that's how we call it, that the network is designed from inside out. And that's about it on the zero trust concepts. And my friend Sophia will be covering this in enough detail, so I'll let her take it from here. However, I would like to leave you with this thought, that even though we may have defense mechanisms, even though we may have recovery mechanisms and resiliency in the organization, these ransomware gangs are increasing and growing, madly in the sophistication and the periodicity and the frequency of the attack. And with Internet of Things coming up, they introduce us with sensors, right, with embedded devices, which is all about data and capturing data. So they actually increase the attack vectors for these ransomware attackers, and this is a big problem. and law enforcement agencies, government entities, and security experts are continuing to tackle this problem by recommending best practices, data protection strategy, and always being vigilant. So this is the right time to adopt zero trust. And with this, I'd like to thank the audience and hand it over to Sophia. I hope I didn't take a lot of time, and all yours, Sophia.
Thanks, Neetee. I'm just sharing my screen. Uh, is it visible now? Could you please confirm, guys? Is it visible now?
Hello, ma'am. Yeah, you can start presenting.
Okay.
Ma'am, the
So,
presentation mode.
yeah, it's in the presentation mode. Is it visible now?
Ma'am, I guess you're not presenting it in the slideshow.
Okay, let me just do it again. Is it visible now?
Not yet. It is visible now. Ma'am, please can you hide the pop-up?
Yeah, sure. It's okay
Okay,
now?
ma'am, you're good to. Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Harsha. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for your presence today. And I hope you and your families are safe and healthy in this pandemic. And we all should appreciate ourselves for being the cybersecurity warriors and the backbone of our IT infrastructure at our organizations in this pandemic era. So, my topic would be the what, why, and how of implementing a zero trust security model. So, let me just introduce myself briefly. So, myself, Sophia Priyadarshini, I have over 15 years of experience in cybersecurity, primarily in compliance and risk management. And I'm also a chief community builder of Women in Cyber and also involved in several diverse initiatives like InfoSec Girls, Women in Cybersecurity. And currently, I'm working as a security evangelist at InstaSafe. And thank you, Vices India affiliate and Kerala Police Cyberdome for this wonderful initiative. So, in the next 30 minutes, I will be covering zero trust architecture, deployment models, and use cases. I hope the session will be useful to all the listeners today. And let us understand in today's session all this in detail. So, to begin with, zero trust has become the signature security technology of the pandemic and widespread across the globe and media. We saw a large number of cyber attacks happening in 2020 and 2021, and recent breaches mention zero trust as a security model to safeguard digital assets. So now let us look at some of the typical customer challenges and understand how zero trust helps. So the challenges that we have in most of the IT infrastructures are related to access management, and that can be put into four buckets. That is business continuity, security risks, poor performance and user experience, and lack of access visibility. So every organization has to decide on a quick digital transformation of their IT infrastructure. The traditionally consumed VPNs and firewalls created hurdles in various vectors such as cost, complexity, and operation. So, in security risks, while accessing the security risk, we need to identify the elements that need the utmost protection. And the elements can be broadly mentioned as users, devices, applications, servers, data transmissions. Coming to poor performance and user experience, so often organizations have a forest of applications which include the legacy applications that are delivering its task 100% perfectly, because of which the organizations are not ready to modify them. And there are applications which are highly stable, patched well, and there are applications which are completely residing in cloud and delivering its job from the cloud environment. So, having a collation of these applications is becoming a challenging environment for organizations to ensure how do we securely expose each of the applications to the internet, mainly the legacy applications. And the poor performance of these highly sophisticated security systems is always a challenge for the companies. As the number of vendors and their security solutions are also increasing, the complexity also grows, right? So traditionally, organizations have chosen VPNs for controlled remote access. In this model, if a user have to access four different applications across four networks, he has to connect four different VPNs, adding to the delays and complexity. So latency is also assured when we have a cloud-based machine to manage the traffic in between the organizations and the user. So lack of access visibility and the way in which organizations are exposing these applications and network perimeter endpoints are very important and challenging. So transmitting the data traffic through the internet in a secured fashion is again a challenge, and it must be done in a very seamless fashion. So it may not be a good idea to route the traffic through another device on the internet, so as it makes the whole operation slow, and at the same time we have to ensure that the traffic is handled securely and seamlessly. Access visibility is also becoming a challenging item for the auditors as well as the IT administrators. So are we able to ensure the access policy enforcement for every user that is coming in? Or are we able to monitor the users that are accessing each of the applications and resources? Or are we able to monitor which user is accessing which device and at what time and what location? So it is very important to log it, and this information will help the admins and the organizations to do the root cause analysis of the threats. So to begin with, basically what is trust? Trust is defined as to have confidence, faith, or hope in someone or something. So, an example of trust is having faith that things will be better in the future. Trust is a vulnerability. It is the only vulnerability that is an exploit technique at the same time. So, to exploit trust, all you need to do is get authenticated on the network. Now, breaches in cybersecurity, I'm sure the entire room resonates now. This is a hot boardroom topic. So, we see in every boardroom, either starting or ending, the cybersecurity conversations are taking up. And prior, it was data loss, financial loss, but now the entire business is at stake. So, the you can say the CEO of an organization is the most important person responsible for this, wherein this has become a very important area has to focus on. So now let's understand what actually happened and how did we reach here and what were the market transitions that has led us to this situation what we are speaking today. So now I'm going to take you through the journey of how legacy IT world operated. Imagine everyone in your organization is accessing every asset of your organization, including the applications like SSH, RDP, etc., on a single click from a user interface. So, isn't that a wonderful thing? So, IT security is becoming more complex and diversifying today. Earlier, we had users, devices, applications, servers within a closed network limited to a particular building or a set of buildings as part of a LAN. And at that time, there was no way an external user could get visibility what's happening inside this network and how the access management system is developed inside that closed network area. So the closed network was protected in a similar fashion like how the castle and moat was protected in the olden ages. So having a strong perimeter level protection and limiting all our activities within the perimeter. So now, why zero trust and why now? But then, with the evolution of cloud and mobility, a revolution began. What happened is that all these four elements, like the users, devices, applications, servers, have spread out. So, workers or the users were expected to access these applications remotely anywhere from any location. Whereas the servers and applications have spread out to multiple cloud environments and data center environments. So, to give you an analogy, just think about an typical Indian railway station. So, once you buy a platform ticket, you can go to any platform that you want. And then, if you want to implement security, you know how very well it goes. So, now imagine a second if you are a cloud admin or a system administrator, then what is it for you from a security monitoring perspective? So typically you would be a 2 to 5 years experienced person professionally dealing with multiple dashboards, multiple command line interfaces to manage your public cloud, private data centers, hybrid situations as you'd be handling an island of technologies like SSH, IPsec, VPN, Direct Connect, MPLS and whatnot. So this is really complex, isn't it? So now having multiple data centers and cloud environments in picture, as well as external and internal users accessing these applications from different devices has become a challenge. And that is why I bring into the topic zero trust and why we need the zero trust infrastructure in place. So the term zero trust means trust but verify. Previously, there was LAN environments where we all trusted each other, right? But now, with the applications moving to the cloud, the remote and mobile workers accessing the devices and applications from anywhere, we are moving to the trust but verify model. So we are seeing a lot of insider attacks within the organizations recently, which is making us to believe that we should not trust any users outrightly because sometimes the user device can be taken over by the external hackers, after which he can spread out within a particular network. So now again, to give you an analogy, let us imagine an airport situation. So you have got a boarding pass card which has the following mentions in it, like your destination point, your flight time, the departure gate, and the gate number. So without this boarding pass, you cannot go to any gate which you wish to go, if any, right? So our situation is something like this, where the zero trust says trust no one. So zero trust helps us to contain the spread of an attack within a smaller boundary or a perimeter, as each user is given the least privilege access. So that's what zero trust talks about, this mantra: never trust users, never trust devices, never trust network. So in this diagram which I am showing you, there is a kind of it's a kind of a structure where the employees are sitting inside the office and accessing the resources and applications, and the employees who are outside, the third party contractors, the partners, and the employees who are accessing the office applications remotely, and the personal devices too, they're accessing through a firewall inside the organization's application or the resources. So from this, the zero trust model draws upon the few ground assertions. Also, what are they? So the difference between the inside and outside the network perimeters no longer stands true. The network locally cannot be a lone factor in determining trust. So malicious threats exist on the network at all times, and it can be internal or external in nature. So every user device, network, and data is to be validated and authenticated before granting access to them. So the zero trust policies are to be dynamic, that is by taking into account multiple sources of data and continuous monitoring of data regarding any new vulnerabilities that may crop up. So in a sense, zero trust network architecture cannot be divided be just a single network architecture, but it's rather a set of guiding principles in terms of both network design and network operation. So that dramatically revamps the security infrastructure of an organization while at the same time increasing visibility and the scope for analytics across the network. So let us review these three key frameworks from Forrester, Gartner, and NIST. So the Forrester released their initial zero trust model in 2010, and in the following years they have re-released as zero trust extended model. The surrounding element, as you can see in the diagram in this model, are workloads, networks, devices, and people, which are conduits to data and therefore need protection. So let us look at each of these elements in a very brief manner. So the data is the center of the zero trust extended model, and it includes data classification and protection at the core of the requirements to support the zero trust model. And the network is primarily focused on network segmentation from a user and a server's perspective to provide better security based on identity centric attributes. The people includes multiple elements of identity and access management, primarily role based access control, attributes based access control. So the zero trust enables the use of these more broadly and more effectively across the organization's infrastructure. And the multi-factor authentication is another requirement and is essential in supporting the zero trust. And finally, single sign-on using modern open standards such as OAuth and SAML is another core element within the people pillar. So the people pillar stands as one of the strong proponents of making the identity central to every zero trust environment. The workloads consist of the components that make up the logical functions which drive business within customer facing and back-end business systems like containers, applications, infrastructure, processes, etc. So the zero trust requires meta-driven workload access controls which are enforced consistently across hybrid environments. The security model for devices should include the identity, inventory, isolation, security, and control of the device. And coming to visibility and analytics, which is surrounding to the next to the workloads, that is with the zero trust extended model, it is the consumption and presentation of data across the enterprise to support informed security decisions based on contextual information. Automation and orchestration, that is the last surrounding next to the visibility and analytics part, that is within the zero trust extended model. These are required to automate manual processes and to relate them to security policy and actions for response. And this element is critical to the success of a zero trust platform. So as zero trust is inherently dynamic and adaptive, and the only way to achieve this is with automation and orchestration across the enterprise environment. So coming to the next slide, Gartner has approached zero trust through a model they call CATA. What is CATA? So CATA is continuous adaptive risk and trust assessment. So the premise of CATA is to provide continuous risk assessment as it pertains to users, devices, applications, data, and workloads from a perspective of predict, prevent, detect, and respond. So the CATA uses the fundamental process of implement a security posture, monitor the posture, and adjust the security posture through different planes of security. The Gartner also believes that these principles should be enforced across the entire enterprise, and that includes security, policy, and compliance requirements throughout. So coming to the next slide, this model is defined by NIST, and here firstly there is a notion of a subject. You can see in my diagram where subject can either be a user, application, or device operating on or with a computer system and which has access to an enterprise resource. So the resource can be an application, data, document, or a workload, that's under the control of the enterprise and protected by the zero trust system. So we generally refer to this as a resource. The subject is presumed to be operating in an untrusted environment or an untrusted network, and is only permitted to access the resource by way of a policy enforcement point, that is the PEP. The policy enforcement point controls the subject's access to the resource via what NIST terms the implicit trust zone. So the policy enforcement point doesn't store or make policy determinations. The policy determinations work is done by the policy decision point, which is above the data plane. So notice that if the subject communicates with the enterprise resource across what is termed the data plane, which is distinct from the control plane. So as NIST states, the policy decision point and the policy enforcement point communicate on a network that is logically separate and not directly accessible by enterprise assets and resources. The data plane is only used for application data traffic. Coming next to the zero trust core principles. So across the industry, there are three core zero trust principles that is accepted as being foundational and essential. And we believe that they must hold true in any zero trust implementation. So let's see from a current industry perspective, the zero trust principles. The first is ensure all resources are accessed securely regardless of the location. So this is a very powerful statement which encompasses multiple dimensions. First, it requires that all resources should be included in the scope of a zero trust solution. Implicitly, this demands that the organizations take a holistic approach with zero trust, and that they should eliminate the silos and barriers which have existed historically between the security tools and teams. Second, the principle also requires that the zero trust secure access by all identities, that is the human and the machine, to all resources that are data, applications, servers, regardless of the location of the identity and regardless of the location of the resource being accessed. So it is this principle which effectively mandates the dissolution of the traditional corporate perimeter and its replacement with an alternative security paradigm. So this also means that not only must the network traffic be encrypted as it transits untrusted network areas, but also that all access must be subject to an enforced policy model. Coming to the next, adopting a least privilege strategy and strictly enforce access control. So the concept of least privilege access to resources is not new. It has been difficult to enforce prior to zero trust. So the least privilege must be consistently managed across locations and resource types and at both the network and the application layer using security and identity context. So if we go back, historically, security solutions have been unable to bridge the disconnect between network and application level security. And traditionally, users and the devices, they obtained broadband access to the networks, and applications were relied upon authentication only access control. So let's say anyone in the company could access the login page on the finance server, but only finance users had accounts and passwords. So this is no longer a sufficient level of security. There are many known and critical vulnerabilities which don't require authentication and can be remotely exploited. So the ability to send network packets to a system is a privilege and must be managed as such. If users are not authorized to access a given service, for example, having credentials to SSH into a server or to authenticate to a VPN, they must not have the ability to connect to that service at a network layer. Inspect and log all traffic. So the network represents a particularly interesting place in the security and the IT infrastructure, since they are the means by which the distributed components connect and communicate with one another, right? So it is for this reason that the final core principle requires inspection and logging of network traffic. So the zero trust systems are typically made up of a distributed set of network enforcement points. It's important to note that Zero trust system should examine and log network traffic metadata, but be more judicious, like in the inspection of the network traffic content, due to processing and the storage costs also. Now, this is just summarizing the zero trust in a working definition. So, a zero trust system is an integrated security platform that uses contextual information from identity, security, and IT infrastructure and risk and analytic tools to inform and enable the dynamic enforcement of security policies uniformly across the enterprise. Coming to the next, let us go through now the 4 types of zero trust deployment models. So they are the resource-based deployment model, enclave-based deployment model, cloud-rooted deployment model, and micro-segmentation deployment model. Coming to the first, um, the resource-based deployment model. So here there is typically a user agent deployed onto the subject system, acting as the user agent policy enforcement point. Second, there is an inline PP, I mean the policy enforcement point, that is a gateway, which is deployed and as per NIST on the resource and or as a component directly in front of a resource inside the network. So this diagram introduces a visual representation of the implicit or an indirectly a trust zone, so which is an area behind a given policy enforcement point within which all resources, that is the entities, are trusted to the same degree. So this represents the boundary of the security domain for which that the policy enforcement point is responsible. So any interactions between components that stay within the implicit trust zone occur outside of the control of the policy enforcement point. Now, in this enclave-based deployment model, so in this case, the policy enforcement point is sitting in front of multiple resources, termed as, you can see, the resources enclave. So this resources enclave, what is it? This is a collection of resources. It may be physically located together, that is in an on-premise or co-located data center, or logically related. Example, a set of cloud-based or virtualized servers. So in this model, the implicit trust zone contains multiple network resources which are very likely communicating among themselves. So that is, it's critical that in this model, the resource enclave must be running solely on a logical private network that's under the control of the enterprise. So we state logical since, of course, this may be running in a public infrastructure as a service environment or a shared co-location environment, but the network traffic at layers 3 and up must be private to the enterprise. So although the resources inside the enclave can and may communicate with one another outside the visibility and control of the policy enforcement point, the only way for subjects outside the trust zone to communicate into it is via the policy enforcement point, and therefore is controlled by policy. So that is, with this model, the enterprises need to make sure they thoroughly understand the resources data and communication patterns. So note also that this deployment model leans towards a user to service approach to zero trust. Coming to the next, cloud rooted deployment model. So in this model, the policy enforcement points, that sits in front of the enterprise resources enclaves and acts similarly to the policy enforcement points in the model as shown here. So, however, these policy enforcement points have one important difference. That is, they don't serve as ingress point into the enterprise network. So instead, that function has been logically shifted to the policy enforcement points running in the vendor's cloud environment. So in this model, the policy enforcement points that sit within the enterprise, they act as connectors, making outbound connections to the cloud-based policy enforcement point. And because these on-premise connectors do not require any inbound connections, they often simplify the deployment of this model. So when the subject wants to communicate with the resource, they first authenticate with the policy decision point, and then their traffic is directed to one of the cloud-based policy enforcement points. So typically the one that's geolocated closest to them, or perhaps exhibits the lowest latency. The traffic then transits the policy enforcement point within the cloud to the policy enforcement point that has a connection to the target resource enclave. So the on-premise policy enforcement point secures as a resource enclave. Coming to the next, the micro-segmentation deployment model. So this model is actually a variant of the first model, the resource-based model. So with the important difference being that the resources are in fact also subjects, are also the subjects, that is the authenticated identities. So this has significant implications on the policy model and the policy enforcement capabilities, as well as on the resource discovery and visualization capabilities that commercial implementations typically provide. So this approach naturally has a small implicit trust zone, typically scoped to just the resource itself. So as a result, it can provide the fine-grained control of resource access and can enforce bidirectional policies. So that is because the policy enforcement point is running local to the resource. So its policies can control outbound network communications as well as inbound. So coming to the next, I would like to point out a few use cases, that is the secure remote access or VPN replacement or the modernization needs. So this use case replaces the traditional VPN based activity with much capable secure posture and less cost. So the traditional VPNs can only establish a single secure network tunnel from the user's device to a VPN server, which terminates the secure tunnel and permits network traffic to proceed into the private network area. So the VPN sustain a perimeter-based network model, so requiring that any distributed resources be connected to the enterprise's core network over a WAN. So alternatively, they will require users to manually switch VPN connections when they need to access resources in different locations. So in these cases, these are often good reasons to adopt zero trust. For example, to overcome security or operational issues caused by a rapidly deployed VPN. So if there are resources that were deployed recently, it may be the case that only remote VPN users can have a secure access pathway, and that your organization needs a solution for on-premise users. And finally, zero trust solutions designed to secure access for all users to all resources can eliminate siloed solutions such as separate rules and access mechanisms for remote versus on-premise users. Next, I would like to just show you a use case like secure access to multi-cloud and hybrid workloads. So in this use case, I would like to discuss whether secure access to multi-cloud and hybrid workloads, a few key questions like how does your DevOps manage across clouds or regions? How does it manage access across clouds or regions? And do you have visibility and audit trails for who is accessing what? And are VPN costs training your budget? Is your security setup able to handle the increased load during mandatory work from home? So today we have an increasing number of engineering tasks and DevOps access to cloud infrastructure. So when the users have to access applications over multiple cloud and data center environments, so it becomes a challenge. So zero trust can implement this model in a very seamless fashion. And the zero trust network architecture takes care of user access, audit trail for compliance, reporting, and it replaces hard to maintain the VPNs. So what are the benefits of using a zero trust model? So let us review the few of the points. The zero trust solutions provide multiple security and business benefits that organizations can leverage to secure their assets and improve business productivity. So coming to the first, protect your data and reduce your attack surface. So the zero trust security solutions secure critical assets and infrastructure by employing a split plane architecture. So this means that the access control plane where trust is established, and the data plane, where actual data is transferred, are separated. This helps in blocking network based attacks since each of the planes is rendered invisible to external actors. In addition, a zero trust approach serves to secure better protection for your cloud application. And by virtue of centralized connectivity and a default deny gateway that verifies the identity and context of each access request. So, in essence, this ensures that only authorized users are able to access the data and applications that they're allowed to access. So this in turn helps in preventing breaches and data exfiltration among the other benefits. Coming to it, the next one, providing an integrated security infrastructure. So, as I discussed, one of the major problems while implementing a zero trust model is that a single point of trust for network connections is an uphill task to visualize and implement, and in implementation also. So, integrating identity management before granting access is a highly resource intensive task. So providing the individual applications the ability to control their security posture is a stretch. So in other words, it is simply difficult to integrate the access control, identity management, session management, and other security controls as an integrated security architecture. So the zero trust approach serves to not only integrate user aware applications and client aware devices, but is instrumental in integrating other security controls as well. So, with mobile and remote connectivity becoming ubiquitous and a migration towards the cloud becoming the norm, it is necessary for security technologies to facilitate this cloud adoption and digital transformation. Traditional technologies have never been up to the mark when it comes to securing and facilitating cloud adoption. So, since the perimeter based approach to security becomes ineffective in this scenario, so the legacy based solutions are not viable as an answer to secure cloud adoption. So, a zero trust approach to security, on the other hand, it empowers and simplifies the digital transformation journey of organizations by helping them securely adapt cloud architectures while ensuring a significant reduction in the costs and complexities involved in designing security models that support multi cloud deployments. So, in addition, the use of micro segmentation of networks and multi-layered authentication facilitates the secure adoption of Internet of Things and other neoteric digital transformation technologies. So by using this micro perimeterization to segment workloads and centralizing the control for companies, a zero trust approach serves to deploy these applications at a faster pace and with better security controls. Coming to the next, simplified security and an enhanced user experience. So the use of this convenient multi-factor authentication based access and single sign-on, it helps in delivering a secure and more enhanced user experience. Added to that, the significant reduction in latency as compared to traditional technologies, uh, and we are assured of simple and hassle-free usage. So the cloud-based zero trust solutions, they additionally serve to enhance application performance for the users, allowing them to access only what they need to access and deliver a seamless user experience across different device types, locations, and network conditions. Next comes the complete visibility into network traffic. So, a core principle and advantage of zero trust networks is 360-degree visibility and monitoring of all network traffic for better identification of threat vectors. So, by enabling continuous monitoring across the network, it becomes easier for system administrators to fulfill the compliance requirements and frame customized access policies. So, with an increase in remote workforces and an increasing adoption of digital transformation processes, the security becomes a very critical. So traditional solutions are often found to be very inadequate in dealing with security challenges associated with increase in employees working from home. So in this scenario, the zero trust solutions are very flexible and they provide an enhanced level of security. So without compromising on the user experience. Many enterprises, they have recognized these fallacies associated with traditional solutions and have chosen to shift to a more neoteric model of security and primarily zero trust solutions. That is all from my end. Thank you. I'm just stopping the screen sharing.
That was one informative session. Thank you, Neetee and Sophia. Now over to the questions from audience. So we have a question. How is it essential for an organization to have a ransom negotiator?
Okay, let me take that. So, ransom negotiators are specialized people who serve like consultants to the organization's leadership and the management to manage and coordinate or negotiate with the attackers. So this of course needs a lot of specialized skills. So of course, we need to, it is recommended to have one. These are also the coordinators which are routed through the insurance firms who support in the ransomware insurance. So yes, it is as critical as one of the controls. So there are organizations who are able to negotiate. Then you take help from the law enforcement agencies and the organizations. It is always recommended not to pay ransom, right? So because if you end up paying ransom, you get threatened, then the attackers get encouraged. So idea is that we should have ways out to solve this problem so that we can break this pattern, and that's where the role play of the ransom negotiator comes. So yes, it is critical, and if you can afford such kind of services and organizations and counselors, certainly we need to have these kind of people. Recommended very well.
We have great questions from our audience, but because of time constraints, we'll end the Q&A session here. It was very engaging. Thank you. So before leaving the stage, we thank Kerala Police Cyberdome and Hackbee for continued support and collaboration, and also for giving us this wonderful opportunity today. Over to you, Meera, for further proceedings of the day.
Thank you, Neetee and Sophia. That was a very interesting and wonderful interaction. I also extend my wishes to Sabna Sainudeen, Preeti Bhisikar, and Harsha Deepa from Vices India, who has also joined here with us today. And we are very grateful for your expertise and your notions. We obtained great understanding on the topic, and on behalf of Hackbee, I extend our sincere thanks to all of you for being with us today.